Dinosaurs were not just big, scaly monsters that lived long ago. They were once ordinary animals, trying to live their everyday lives. What if we could find out what these prehistoric creatures did for fun? Did they party like it was 66 million BC? Did they play sports? Were they activists? How do they cope with mental health issues? Join us today as we answer all of these burning questions and more in the story of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs first appeared during the Triassic period about 230 million years ago. That's a lot of years ago. This is also when the first mammals evolved from small, shrew-like ancestors. So for a very long time, dinosaurs and mammals have been natural enemies. But this isn't always the case. There are some species of dinosaurs who preferred to be herbivores instead of carnivores. A famous example is the Stegosaurus. You can tell it was a herbivore because of its teeth, which were shaped like those of cows or horses. Carnivores had teeth that were more like daggers. Stegosaurus also had plates along its back, which scientists think might have helped regulate its body temperature. These animals were cold-blooded, so they would often bask in the sun to warm themselves up before going in search of plants to eat. Their favorite food was probably conifers, since the seeds inside of them would have been soft and nutritious. Other herbivorous dinosaurs include the Maiasaura, which ate meat well, at least fish. It was one of the few dinosaurs that lived near water. It would use its tail to steer itself while swimming after slippery prey. And the Camptosaurus, which was so named because of its bird-like pelvis, but was sadly slow and clumsy. Okay, now let's talk about carnivores. Carnivorous dinosaurs were predators, meaning they hunted down their food. This required them to be fast and agile, which is why most of them walked on two legs. Some of the most popular predators are the same ones we've put on our t-shirts and lunchboxes. Tyrannosaurus rex, Velociraptor, Allosaurus, Spinosaurus. These names come from ancient Greek or Latin, and usually describe the animal's appearance or behavior. For example, Tyrannosaurus rex means tyrant lizard king. Rex was a huge predator, the biggest of its kind. Its head was almost 5 feet long, and its jaws were full of serrated teeth for tearing through flesh. It was also incredibly strong and could take down any prey with ease. But don't be fooled by its looks. Scientists think that T-Rexes were actually pretty nimble and quick for such big lizards. Other large predators include the sea megalodon, which was an aquatic dinosaur related to the alligator. It was so huge it was nicknamed the whale eater, although paleontologists say it probably preferred fish. The largest of the theropods, or two-legged carnivores, was the Spinosaurus. With a huge sail on its back, this dinosaur was built for swimming. Unlike other carnivores, it probably spent most of its time in the water hunting for fish. But which predator was the most ferocious? Well, it depends on how you define ferocious. If you mean fiercest, then maybe it was the Tarbosaurus, whose bite was even stronger than the T-Rex's. But if you mean most intelligent, it was probably the Dinosaurus. It was one of the first animals known to use tools. Fossils found in Africa show that some individuals used stones to crack open ostrich eggs. Maybe they'd gathered the rocks and passed them down through generations. Tools like this are usually associated with primates like chimpanzees, so finding them with dinosaurs is especially interesting. Now let's get back to our list. While theropods were chasing down meals, the ornithopodids were happily munching away on plants. These were four-legged dinosaurs that belonged to the Ornithischia group, which means bird-hip dinosaurs. To date, over 800 species of ornithischians have been discovered, making them the most diverse group of non-avian dinosaurs. Two of the most famous ornithischians were the Ankylosaurus and the Triceratops. You can tell them apart by their frills. Ankylosaurus had a row of bony plates running down its back, while Triceratops had 3 huge horns curving forward from its skull. These dinosaurs were so iconic that they were featured in the first Jurassic Park movie. In reality, though, the Ankylosaurus was probably slow-moving, and the Triceratops had much smaller horns. Another famous ornithischian was the Stegosaurus. It was one of the earliest dinosaurs to evolve, and it was also one of the heaviest. Its tail was like a spiked club that it could swing around to defend itself against predators. However, new research suggests that its brain was rather small, which may have meant that it wasn't the smartest creature around. It wouldn't be a story about dinosaurs if we didn't mention the sauropods. These were the longest dinosaurs that ever lived. They also belonged to the Ornithischia group, but they were part of a subgroup called sauropods. Their defining feature was their extremely long necks, which they used to reach high plants that no other herbivore could access. One of the best examples was the Diplodocus. With its whip-like tail, It was one of the most recognizable sauropods. Another was the Brachiosaurus, which reached a height of up to 40 feet. These giant dinosaurs were so tall that they could easily peer into the windows of a two-story building. A smaller sauropod was the Apatosaurus. It was shorter than its cousins, but it made up for this with its immense length. When walking, it stomped on all fours and could easily knock a human off their feet. The sauropods weren't just big, though. They also had relatively large brains compared to other dinosaurs, maybe because they needed to be smart in order to survive. If a predator managed to sneak up on a sauropod, it would be in big trouble. Being so big took a lot of energy, so these dinosaurs needed to find food quickly. If they couldn't keep up with their gigantic appetites, they would literally starve to death. Now let's move on to social life. It's just like modern animals. Dinosaurs probably lived in groups. After all, they were social creatures who cared for their young. Dinosaur parents were dedicated and protective. A perfect example of this is the Maiasaura. Living in groups allowed dinosaurs to hunt bigger prey and defend themselves against predators. For example, a herd of Maiasaura could take down a grown-up Hadrosaurus, but a lone individual would stand no chance. Fortunately, there's not much evidence of dinosaurs partying, if that was even a thing. Most of the time, they were looking for food, trying to avoid being killed or raising their babies. Of course, there were exceptions. The Therizontosaurus was a strange dino that had a thick coat of feathers. It was so different from other carnivores that it's been given its own group, the Therizontosauria. Scientists believe it hunted in packs, working together to chase down prey. In this regard, it's similar to modern wolves, except it was a lot bigger and had claws like grizzly bears. Dinosaurs weren't just savage beasts. Some of them were actually pretty cute, like the Compsognathus. It was only the size of a chicken, so it probably scurried around clucking like a scaredy cat.
Oh, nice.
Other dinosaurs were gentle giants, like the Argentinosaurus. It was the biggest land animal that ever lived, weighing up to 110 tons. That's as heavy as 18 African elephants. Despite its enormous size, it was a herbivore, munching away on ferns, horsetails, and cycads. The coolest dinosaurs were the ones that could fly, like the pterodactyl. Actually, it couldn't fly very well, so it glided instead. It lived during the age of dinosaurs, but it wasn't a dinosaur itself. It was a type of flying reptile. One of the only dinosaurs that could truly fly was the Microraptor. It looked like a mix between a bird and a lizard. It was covered in feathers and had a wingspan of up to 6 meters. Some scientists think it could even climb trees using its wings. Flying dinosaurs could have easily become extinct when the asteroid hit Earth, but luckily for them, they didn't exist yet. But now we must address the question that's been on everyone's minds. Were dinosaurs gay? Just kidding. It's really more complicated than that. Dinosaurs were reptiles, which means they reproduced by laying eggs. Sometimes these nests were quite big, containing dozens of eggs laid by the same mother. But sometimes they were made by several females. Take the Saurolophus, for example. It was a duck-billed dinosaur that laid its eggs in colonies. Each female would lay her eggs in a mound made by the others. Once the eggs were laid, the mothers would abandon them, and the other females would protect them until they hatched. Scientists don't know exactly why they did this, but they think it might have been easier to guard a big nest of eggs than lots of little ones. It's also possible that the Saurolophus practiced lesbian nesting. This is when two female dinosaurs lay eggs together. There's evidence of this in the fossil record, but scientists don't know for sure if the parents were a male-female pair or two females. Other scientists argue that this behavior might have been an adaptation that helped the dinosaurs deal with the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. By gathering in large numbers to lay eggs, they ensured that at least some of their offspring would survive. As you can see, dinosaurs weren't just ferocious monsters. They were a diverse group of animals with complex social lives, behaviors, and appearances. So what do you think? Which dinosaur was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you've learned something new, and stay tuned for more stories. Thanks for watching. See you next time.